In this video, I'm going to be doing a teardown of a Dorman Re-manufactured instrument cluster. I want to check over the quality of workmanship and the parts used and whether or not they covered all the standard normal issues that these things come up with to make for a reliable rebuilt cluster. Now, it looked like this has been done in 2013, so that would have been 5 years worth of use since this has been rebuilt. And here we can see we have the software version sticker. So they would have programmed this for the specific vehicle that it was going into, so that way all the options match as far as steering wheel controls and other things like that. And here's the Dorman sticker. Now, I don't know the history of this cluster, so I don't know if somebody else has been in here or not in those last 5 years. I'm at this point just assuming that it's been untouched since Dorman has had it, but I could be wrong and maybe somebody else has been in here. First thing I'm going to do is check the calibration and see how tight they are with their resetting of the needles. So right now it's booted up with no data or no serial input, no analog inputs, so all the needles should be at their home position. At first glance it might look good, but there are a couple gauges that shouldn't be exactly at home, like both the tach and the mile per hour are technically supposed to be about a needle width and a half below the last dash marks for the home position. Now these three gauges are correct. They are supposed to be right on the minimum mark, but the fuel, I see this get wrong a lot and it kind of drives me crazy. The gas gauge shouldn't stop right at the orange mark on the E. It's supposed to go below the E, so that way when you actually hit E, you're not out of gas, you're just time to get gas. But if you get a virgin factory GM cluster that hasn't been touched, this needle will be below, about a needle width below the mark. So that is actually wrong. And what I'll do, I'll hook up the Tech 2 scan tool and we can do some full range sweeps and you'll get a better idea on what I mean. So here you'll get a better idea on what I mean by the RPM, mile per hour, and gas gauge are slightly off. Let me just get you lined up here. So if you look close at where the needle ends for the tach, you'll see it's actually going slightly over. It should be stopping right on the 6. Now if they would have had this set at the minimum spot correctly, it would have ended up right on the 6. Same with the mile per hour. It's actually going slightly over the 120, but in the maximum range it should stop right on it. And again, if they would have set this slightly a needle width below the 0, it would have ended up on the right mark. And the gas too, if you look close, it's actually going slightly over the full mark. And again, that's because it wasn't set right on the minimum start. All right, so now to open this thing up. Okay, so first thing I'm looking for is, are they using the upgraded stepper motors? And yes, they are. These are all X27s, so that's good. These are the latest models. If this was an older rebuild, it would have had X25s in it, but since this is about 5 years old, it does have the latest upgraded X27s in all positions, so that's good. They did replace all the backlighting bulbs. I better let the cat in. The cat won't stop meowing. Okay. All right, so the light bulbs have all been replaced for the backlighting. I am seeing some tungsten darkening, which the factory OEM bulbs do not get the tungsten darkening, but they're actually a really high quality bulb that is hard to find third-party aftermarket. So I'm not surprised after 5 years of use there's some darkening. And also the sockets have melted. I guess they're not using the same quality plastic as the OEM, but I don't know if the owner of the vehicle may have smelt the burning plastic, but let's see if any of them work. Yeah, so all the bulbs are still lit, which is, again, pretty good for 5 years of use. Let's take a closer look at some of the rework on the board. They did reflow a lot of the resistors that need to be reflowed. The work doesn't look too bad. I'll get a close-up of this under the microscope. Will like to say though, I usually like to see the flux cleaned off of the board, even though this is probably a no clean flux. Just a professional job usually means no signs of rework being done. They were a little sloppy with the flux, but we can let that go. Alright, so I did notice some bizarre scratching on the backside. I don't know how well the camera picks that up, but it's like they purposely scrubbed it with maybe like a scrub pad or something. There's just some strange scrub marks on the back. I'm not too sure what that is all about, but in general the soldering doesn't look too bad. If you probably noticed that the blinker and the cruise control still have blue bases. These are still the original factory bulbs, which is okay to leave them, in my opinion. The blinkers are just not on long enough to burn out. Same with the cruise control. Just not enough hours on these to worry about replacing them, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, in general, they did a good job. Everything looks great except for the calibration. Now, I'm going to be a little more picky than the average person. The average person driving a Chevy truck might not care that their gauges are just a tiny bit out of whack, but it's just something to note. But looks like, in my opinion, Dorman clusters get a pass. They did everything they needed to do, replaced all the parts that needed to be replaced, reworked all the areas that needed rework, and the soldering doesn't look too bad. A little bit of flux left over, but what are you going to do? That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Here's a thing making all the noise while I'm trying to film. Cat, you're annoying.